Guys, welcome back to Glorious Creations. I've got some mica powder out. I have white clay. I have different styluses, rollers. I call these my nesting doll. These remind me of Russian nesting dolls because all the cutters fit together. So I have these guys out and some round cutters, metal leaf, and some other cutters. This is optional. I cut my clay using this cutter, which is, if you look here, about 1.5 inches in square, both directions, okay, so that you know the size. I have 6 pieces of white here, and I have 5 pieces of translucent. Now, I'm gonna make a Mokume Gane, but in all honesty, I have to tell you that this is the second time that I have filmed this video, because the first time was a total failure. Not because the Mokume Gane didn't work, but because my translucent clay was too thick. I was very, very disappointed. So you could just use regular white clay. If you have pearlescent clay, you can use that. If not, you can take a little mica powder like I'm doing here, and then just mix it into your clay. And you see how it's kind of falling apart a little bit? That's because the mica powder is resisting a little bit, but just work with it for a minute or two and you'll be able to get it back. I just did one just to show you. It does not make a huge difference in this, but it might make a little bit of a difference. So I am just doing white and translucent. I have done this before. It has been a really long time since I have done just the white and translucent, and I will show you a piece that I made a long time ago. And this is my kind of my inspiration, something along those lines. Okay, I have a customer who has requested white. She only wants white, with maybe just a little bit of silver thrown in there. So I'm using this kind of metal leaf because I like that it's chunky. It's not the flat sheets like I normally use. And because I'm working with just such a small amount, that would be harder to work with. But I have to show you. Look at this big old hunk. Isn't that crazy? Okay, so I'm just gonna pop a little metal leaf on here. And I think I'll put a little bit of this guy in here. Some white. And a little bit more metal leaf. The metal leaf and the translucent are what help you get your definitions as you make your impressions with the Mokume Gane. It's what makes it visually interesting. And if you just used white, whoops, you would never be able to see anything. But the last time I did this, I cut my translucent too thick. So my white is rolled out on a number 4 and my translucent is rolled out on a number 6. I loved the pieces. I loved how they were turning out, but they yellowed. The translucent yellowed. I was so disappointed. And I think I'm just gonna go like this and like this. But I don't want to make the translucent too thick. I don't want to run into that trap again. Okay. Oops. A little bit more metal leaf. It stuck to itself. I got more than I wanted that time, so we'll just crunch it on there. Clean that up. Okay. And I guess we'll have a little bit on the top, and that's okay. I don't want to make a ton, so I'm really starting with a small amount. So now I'm just going to kind of push it all together, so that the metal leaf and everything in there sticks together. take my roller and roll it, but I want to do the top and the bottom, because if you don't roll on the bottom, it will stick to your work surface and get smaller, whereas everything else spreads out. And if you roll like me, you roll more heavy-handed with one hand, even if it's unintentional. You can give it a little extra smush. Cut it and restack it. Now, do I want that thick right there in the middle? Oh, and the other thing I forgot to show you, I had some white pieces laying here, some little strips that you can take and put in between as well. And you can do it with a little bit translucent too, just to give it a little bit more thickness in a couple spots when you put it back together. And you can put it back together from bottom to bottom or top to bottom, and then that changes your layers as well. And that's how we're going to do that. I've heard them called Mokume Gane and Mokume Gane. I hear Mokume Gane more often, so that is the way I'm going to pronounce it. I do not know if that is technically correct. If I am saying it wrong, please feel free to let me know. Then again, it could just be my pronunciation. You know. All right. So I kind of wanted to keep it a little bit controlled, which is why I got the circles out. And this one is a little bit too big for that, so I'm going to widen it just a little bit. There we go. And there's one. And there's two. And three. Oops. It's been a while since I've done just a circle type cut. That's why I got these guys out, because they're so much fun, because they're so much smaller. And I'm gonna go right here in the middle with that one, and again over here, and over here, and then into these as well. Cutting into it provides it slices in the layers of your clay. And essentially what you're doing is you're trying to warp those pieces of clay so they're not all staying together, so that they kind of start going like this. And then when you push down into it and you put them back together and you fold it back up, whatever impressions you've made in the clay come back together. And that's what gives you visual interest in the layers. But it's really hard to do when you're only using two colors like this, especially if you're only using white and translucent. And then these cutters are cool because you can do both sides, the top and the bottom, and you don't have to go as far down. But see, I kind of pushed that time and kind of wobbled it a little bit, so I know that I distorted the clay a little bit more with that. And then you can take your cutters, or not your cutters, your stylus, and push down in any spots, and then take the skinnier stylus, the smaller ones, and push down through them, and those give interesting effects as well. I also like taking these guys and sometimes going a little bit at a diagonal, because it changes the way the clay is being pressed upon. I think I'll just do a couple of these little dots along the edges, and maybe a smaller one here, and another wide one. Let's do a couple small little circles around that. You can do as much or as little as you would like. It is entirely up to you. And now I'm going to take it and bring it back together. You can cut and stack these as many times as you would like. That just thins your layers as you're going. And because I'm starting with a smaller amount, both in diameter as well as height, it's a little bit harder to work with. But I don't want a bunch of leftover either, because I'm just trying to make one set. And I'll probably end up making a couple pieces, so she's got some choices to pick from. But you see how that's already changed the layers, the clay? Isn't that cool? Gonna give it a little roll on the top. And then if you're just not sure that you got all the way through it, you can always take your cutters and go through. But when you take your cutters, you don't want to use the sharp side. You want to use the blunt side. Don't cut yourself. Be very careful of your top blade, because that definitely pushes in the layers of your clay more. And then maybe just a couple of these small guys. Then you can also take and use these guys too. In a couple different little random spots, because they give unique cool holes, as do things like this. And if you don't have anything like those, these are neat because they're narrower at the bottom and whiter, and so when you press into the clay with these, they give you kind of interesting effects as well, especially if you wiggle them a little bit. So you can't see it, but it's narrower inside the clay, so that's always fun too. You can use whatever you have at your disposal to make this. You can use household items I have shown you in other videos. You can use screwdrivers, forks, knives, the edges of pens. Something that is hard and that will go down through your clay, but that will leave impressions in it as well. So. And the one thing that I forgot to do was to roll out a backing. So give me just a minute, I'll be right back. I'm gonna do that. Okay, so I've rolled out a really thin backing sheet. This is a number 7. I could go all the way down to a 9, that is my lowest setting. And what I wanted to show you is, this is what a number 9 looks like. And this is what a number 3 looks like. And this is why my last ones did not work, because my pieces were too thick. I'm going to start with a really thin backing. Okay. You can cut these by taking slices off your edges. See, like that's really cool. I see a lot of fun and interest in there. So let's just take a little bit of that. See, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in there. But not so much on the other sides, because that's where the white has kind of folded over a little bit. And just take it and slice along your top. And then you can, I'm going to set them on the paper until I decide I want to get this stuck, which ones I like. See if I can make it easier to cut with it not slipping. Yep. Let's try that again. Or not. And if this one doesn't turn out, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. You cut from different sections, you get different perspectives. There's more silver and more translucent over here. I think I'll put it like that. All those little pushes that we made down into that clay made all that interest. I'm not cutting it very evenly either, which is not the way you're supposed to do it. So do your best to try and cut it more even than I am at the moment. But I really want to take thin slices because I don't want to run into the same problem that I had last time. Oops. That one's really fun. Look at all those little circles in there. But it's too thick right there on that edge. And maybe just one more. Okay. So gonna move. And yes, this backing is much thinner than I would normally do. But I guess I'm gun shy, hesitant of the translucent browning on me like that again. I've never had that happen, even when I have used thicker translucent. My concern was originally that maybe it was just my oven or that I got a bad batch of clay or something. But it was operator error. I accept the blame. Okay. Now when I run my finger across here, I feel a little bit of the impressions. But if you use your roller, you go along here. Not that you're rolling, but use your roller and go across to help you burnish the clay. When you put the paper on top and you roll your finger, put your fingers on here. Oh yeah, I can definitely feel how it's thicker here and thinner here. And so just try and burnish it all smoother. But it helps even out those layers. Over there. But I can get a nice one over here. Do a domed pendant with that. A small one over here. And I think that's too small to do a centerpiece. Can I line it up center? Think of that center. Might be a little bit off. Okay. Down here. So put it on here. And then just work your way around the edges to make sure that you don't have any spots sticking up, because you don't want any funky little ripples or anything. While it was in the oven, this is what we saw outside, and I just thought I'd share it with you. They're out of the oven and beautiful. I brought them straight from the oven here. They're still too hot to touch. So I went from this failure to this. I'm thrilled with how they look. This is the effect that I wanted. This is how I wanted them to look. So I'm going to let these cool before we go any further, but I wanted you to see how they looked while they were still hot. Hello again. So I have started resining these guys, and I still have to put the resin on the back, but I just thought I would share with you how pretty they're turning out. And this customer that I'm making this piece for likes the bling. I put out for you guys each of the pieces that are in there. And I can already rule out these because they're more holiday specific. And I have one that I've already used with the rose, but the rose looks so cool in between there, but I think I'm going to eliminate that as well, as I am going to the spiderweb or dreamcatcher. That leaves me with this really big one, but I think that's too large. So that leaves me with these three. So there's like a little tree, which is kind of pretty. Or this guy, just like a mandala, or this guy with like little hearts. This one doesn't, this one's a little flatter. Doesn't, and it's flat on both sides. I don't think I want that one. I think that's the one that I'm gonna use. Now, this guy is something that I got on Amazon, and it's like you put a melt in here. It's a potpourri thing. And I have to give credit to Deb for this idea, because over on Clay Boutique, because that's where I got the idea to use this from. So I'll put a hole here for this, and a hole here for this, and then a hole here as well to string it. Okay. So I just got something new. They're like emery boards, except they're sandpaper, and they're numbered up through the different levels of coarseness with sandpaper. And the lower number is the coarser, and they go all the way from 80 to 7,000. And there's 4 of the 7,000, which is more of a, almost like a, you can hardly even feel anything. It's so soft. So these are what I'm going to use to sand this piece. And like I said, I just got them. I literally just took them out of the box to show you that there's 2 of each one of these. And so I will let you know how they go. Sorry, just in case you're curious, I have a small bowl of water here that I have sitting on a little towel that I can use to dip my piece in and then just work it. Now, what I have to say is, in previous times, I have told you that I hate sanding, but I may have to revise that statement because these are as simple as using an emery board on a fingernail. It turned out fantastic. It is smooth. It is so pretty. Can you see the difference? It's really hard to tell in the white. Maybe you can tell a little bit better on the back, the difference. I can see a difference to my own eye. I just don't know if the camera is showing you how pretty this turned out. Now, you can easily resin this. It's not that difficult just because it's curved. But I wanted to show you the effect of what it looked like if you went ahead and sanded one of these. And it just took me a couple minutes. I'm really happy with these. I think I will be doing more sanding. I'm going to take this piece. I'm going to find the approximate center. Very gently. Without poking my finger, because I have done that in the past and that nonsense hurts. But I'm trying to hold it up so you can see it. There you go. Go through one way and the other. I picked out this pinch bail because it helped the piece. It didn't detract from it. And I got some new necklace style. More of a metal cord. Then you just screw it closed. I started finishing this piece and I thought that I would share a thought with you. When I am using my pen drill and going down through a piece that I have resined, I only go part of the way through and then stop. And I hope that you can see a little bit of light coming through there. See that? I think you can see it when I put my finger there. And the reason that I stop is because if you push all the way through, sometimes it can make your resin pop or release from the back of your piece of polymer clay. And so I like to stop and then go through it from the other direction. And then that way, there's nothing interfering with the bond that you've made between the resin and the polymer clay. And then I just, as usual, go back through both directions before putting my jump ring through here. On this gray necklace, and it has a larger piece here in that set that I showed you, and I made this one a long time ago. But I wanted to show you the versatility that you have with using something like this. So this is what it looks like on a choker with a little pinch bail. And I love how this turned out. It's simple and stunning, yet it's so eye-catching. So there is that. And then if you wanted to use, now I don't have true white. This is the closest that I have to white in the organza cord style necklaces. This is what it looks like on the white, doing like a 3-tier. Now, if I hadn't already put this on here, you can also do them this way. And I have several pieces that I have done hanging this way, and I really like that look as well. It's completely different, and it completely changes the effect depending on how you choose to string it. So there's that option. And then if you really want to change it up, you can go with something like this. Oh, and it looks like I misstrung it. Hold on, let's fix that. So I decided to see what it would look like if you put one on there with some color. Here's what it looks like with just a lavender rhinestone on there. So this becomes your background and this is your accent to it. You could use any color, and I did try it with different colored stones, but I don't have a lot of lavender pieces or purple pieces, and so I just decided that I would try it with purple. So here's what it looks like with the purple. There you go. Lots of different ways that you can finish these. Many, many different options.